Welcome into NFL free agency as it is fully underway, and Tony Pollard, the second running back to go off the board. We're live right now on the Chat Sports main channel, but here you're watching on Titans Today. Jace Andrews, joined by Matthew Peterson, who you've seen on the channel before. Tony P, 3 years, $24 million to the Tennessee Titans. The Derrick Henry season, the Derrick Henry run is over to what we kind of talked about, Petey. Arguably the best player in Titans history, but let's start with Tony P and what exactly this means for the Tennessee Titans, who have over $70 million in cap space. This is the first move they make. I like it to pair him with Tajae Spears. Now this running back room has to start kind of filling in the holes with the rest of the roster.
Yeah, the first thing I gravitated towards was the dollars and years, right? The numbers. 3 years, $24 million. It's the exact contract that DeAndre Swift got for the Chicago Bears. And my guess is Tony Pollard had a number in his mind that was not that big. And he saw what Swift got, called up his agent and said, we are reworking our offers because we are getting exactly what DeAndre Swift got. So for the Tennessee Titans, I think paying $8 million for Tony Pollard might be a little bit on the richer side, but always keep into account that's just the nature of NFL free agency. When you've got several teams competing for a guy or two, usually the winning team ends up paying a little bit more than what you'd expect that guy to go for. But for Tennessee, obviously this is the end of the Derrick Henry era, and they pick up a guy in Tony Pollard who had a really good run in Dallas, sort of serving as a number 2 to Ezekiel Elliott. Then he becomes a number 1 last year, doesn't find that same success. I don't think they're going to have Tony Pollard be a 3-down back. Paying him $8 million, though, definitely doesn't scream, let's use him the same way Dallas did his first few seasons. But I think you're going to see that 1-2 punch of Tajae Spears and Tony Pollard moving forward. And not a huge surprise that Jace Brian Callahan's first signing is on offense.
Now, he talked about wanting the weapons. Well, here's the first one. I want you to grade the signing of Tony Pollard to the Tennessee Titans, the first deal that Ran Carthon makes in 2024 NFL free agency. 3 years, $24 million. Are you good at an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F? Let us know down in the comment sections. What do you think about this Titans signing of Tony Pollard?
I would give it a B-. I don't think it's a signing that's going to completely turn around Tennessee's offensive woes last year. I don't think $24 million for Pollard is also an egregious overpay. He's got more production, I feel like, through his NFL career than DeAndre Swift does, who got the same amount of money in Chicago. So to me, I'd give it a B-. Contract. I think it's a solid addition for Tennessee. I don't think you're going to see Pollard step in, though, and be maybe what he was in that 2022 season where he was a 1,000-yard guy with a whole bunch of receptions to go along with it. Now, there were some other teams interested in Tony Pollard. Diana Rossini puts out the Dallas Cowboys were in on bringing him back. The Giants and Vikings had their eye on him too. He took the bigger payday with Tennessee. And that's what I was talking about earlier. When you've got multiple teams bidding in free agency, usually the highest bidder wins. And that means someone likely overpays a little bit. And this might be a slight overpay, but Jace, look at the last 4 years for him. Not a great 2023 season. You can see the carries, the average go down by a full yard, but if you can recapture what he was doing in 2021 and 2022 with not as big of a role, which then kind of raised the argument of why you're paying him $8 million if you don't have a huge role for him in place.
So I think here's what happened. Tony Pollard was set to go back to the Cowboys. He said, I'll take a pay cut to stay in Dallas. But then, well, guess what? Tennessee came offering, said, hey, we'll give you the same contract DeAndre Swift had, and bang, he's in Tennessee. 1,000 yards is not too bad for a guy who was on a pretty prolific offense. He had CeeDee Lamb and a bunch of really receiving threats. And I think with Tajae Spears, you pair him up, this becomes a really deadly 1-2 punch. Tajae, I think, will have a legitimate role. And I kind of agree with what you're saying. $8 million is a lot to pay for what is effectively a kind of two-system back. But on the other hand, you have to look at this from an entire NFL perspective. The Titans were not going to go out and probably get Josh Jacobs. They weren't going to go out and get Saquon Barkley. Obviously, Derrick Henry was already gone. I think this was, we like Tajae Spears. We want to pair him with somebody else for the next 3 years because the running back draft class, not good. Let's get Tajae Spears an extra, make them the two-down backs and have them really kind of motor this offense in a lot of different ways. Plus, Will Levis, you want to keep him healthy. And now it's all about, okay, What do you do past this? Because the offensive line has been struggling for the past 3 years. Last year, more than any. And, well, you bring in Brian Callahan's father, Bill Callahan, as the new offensive line coach, who had some success with Cleveland, but you need to have the members around him to force this running back room to be able to play like they should. Now, with Tony, though, I think he is the fit of, okay, you're going to be the starter, but there's no way in heck that you're going to be the main back that we have throughout the entire season. I think Tajae Spears will kind of get a more important role than people see in terms of a receiving back. Now, I'm not saying that he'll be the third down back. I'm curious to see, though, what Brian Callahan has planned, because it seemed like this was a signing they were waiting for. So that's kind of one that I see it. Now, hey, if you're waiting on daily fantasy sports, that's your time, because you can get a $100 deposit match by going to PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Now, PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and they are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. Now, obviously, NFL season is over, but the hardwood action is still going on. You got Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham with that demon. And then you got the NCAA March Madness tournaments going on. Gonzaga, a couple of more is on there, guys. I'm telling you, there's so many different prize picks you can put in. They got NHL as well. You can even put in ice time for NHL. It's one that I like. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Using code CLNS will get you that first deposit match up to $100. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season. It's been the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. They also offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections of up to 25% to provide even more value, quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types, what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Once again, PrizePicks.com/CLNS with code CLNS. We'll get you that first deposit match of up to $100. Links will be in the comments and the description of this video. All right, Petey, let's bring you back in here. I'm kind of curious to see your thoughts on, as a whole, the end of Derrick Henry in Tennessee, because we talked about it a little bit. He has a chance to be the best player in franchise history, and he's not even going to play his entire career there.
Yeah, I think he is the greatest player in Tennessee Titans history, and this is a bittersweet day for Titans fans, and I think it's probably a little bit more bitter because signing Tony Pollard I don't think is a bad acquisition in terms of is Tony Pollard a good or bad player. Paying him $8 million a season when he has best served as a committee-esque running back is a very expensive committee now, but obviously losing Derrick Henry, this is the nail in the coffin. There was very little belief that he would return. It sounded like he was prepared to move on after the 2023 season wrapped up. So curious to see where he goes. Maybe he just does wife swap with Tony Pollard. Like maybe he goes down to Dallas and Tony Pollard just takes over his apartment in Nashville. So it looks like Derrick Henry, it definitely looks like Derrick Henry is done in Nashville now. The question becomes, where does he go to next? But obviously, so many great memories with Tractor Cito in Tennessee, and Tony Pollard comes in with huge shoes to fill. So do you like the Tony Pollard signing? I do think Tony Pollard is a good player. I think it doesn't really line up when you think about, okay, what are you going to use him as? Well, we're going to pair him with Tajae Spears. Okay, so if he's not going to be the #1, then surely you're not paying him a whole lot of money. No, we're actually paying him $8 million a season. Oh, is he going to be the #1 then? No, he's going to be the #2 with Tajae Spears. So now I'm like, if that was the goal, I think you can get good production out of the draft. Now, it's not a great running back draft, and maybe Tennessee feels like there's not a guy in the round that they're looking to take a running back they like, but I just feel like this is a lot of money to give to a guy if you don't plan on making him your full 3-down back, which that's what he was last year in Dallas, and it didn't go well.
This seems like the Titans having money and saying, all right, let's throw something at somebody. Let's start this off hot.
They must feel, and there are some, I think there's some truth too. Dallas's offense really morphed into an extreme pass-heavy offense the last 2/3 of the season. Remember, CeeDee Lamb talked with Mike McCarthy. He's like, I need the ball more. And he's like, you know what? You're right. I'm a big fat dum-dum. So they gave CeeDee Lamb the ball a lot more. And that relinquished or reduced Tony Pollard's role. Now, Brian Callahan in Tennessee, he brings his father, Bill Callahan, in my opinion, the best offensive line coach in the National Football League down to Nashville, and give him a good running back. And patchwork offensive line, and you can get some great play like Nick Chubb had in Cleveland. So I think this is a move that really complements two of the big coaching acquisitions made by Tennessee, and they weren't going to spend bigger on Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs, and they were ready to move on from Derrick Henry. And so once DeAndre Swift got that contract, I think Tennessee probably had to up their offer to Tony Pollard.
Hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 9,000 subscribers because the bosses said that I couldn't get there. I want to prove them wrong here on Titans Today. We appreciate y'all watching, man, because Titans Today is growing. And, well, guess what? Derrick Henry's gone. Tony P is back. But, hey, that's all right. We appreciate y'all watching. But, Titans fans, tighten up. We'll see you later.